as far as your vision for this film and like starting that process, how did that start? Like, did you just know that you wanted to make a film, or is this something that kind of, is this something that's deeper than that for you?
Yeah, so I do explore abandoned locations and photograph them. Okay. And in 2016, I was exploring one, and I was also at this point where I was just really struggling with depression and my anxiety. Okay. And I was aware that my own thoughts, my own brain were like my enemy.
Nice. Okay.
And I really wanted to write something that kind of reflected that and set it in this world of exploring abandoned locations and photographing them, because I find those buildings beautiful.
Nice.
And I just don't see it very often on screen.
Right.
So that's kind of really like how it came to be, was just a couple loose ideas and then spending the next 4 years thinking about it before I finally wrote.
And really diving into
Correct,
it.
yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I want to start, take me back to when you first got into film. Like, what got you into film? Is it usually it's some sort of art form that you maybe used to draw? I don't know. Take me back.
Yeah, well, my family, we watched a lot of movies. We'd always go rent movies and have family movie nights. And my first love was the movie Ghostbusters. And then shortly thereafter, when I was 6, I saw Jaws.
Okay.
And Jaws was my introduction to the world of filmmaking.
You talked a little bit about it there,
yeah. And then just realizing that people get to make monsters and creatures and different planets. They get to make that for movies. I was like, that's so fucking cool.
So, are you an only child? You got siblings?
I have a brother that's 7 years older.
Oh, so it's almost like you're not even...
Right. Oh, yeah. And we did not get along at all. We did not have a good relationship. So I was kind of like an only child.
That's like a regular.
Yeah. But I also grew up loving comic books. And I did draw.
Nice.
And so I realize now storytelling has always been something I've done. My best friend and I used to record on a boombox. We'd hit record and we would make our own radio shows or radio plays.
That's what we did that one time in the park. What was it Maybe we were 8th grade or something.
Yeah, 8th grade.
Radio. I now work at a radio station.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, so it's it almost is the same sort of setup.
It's organic.
Yeah.
So whenever you, when you look at a market where a film, like a new horror film comes out every weekend.
Right.
Every month, we have numerous different types of horror movies. What made you want to say, I would like to be a horror filmmaker?
Well, I think horror is a genre I've always gravitated towards as a fan. I always liked watching horror movies, and then I developed a really good group of friends in high school where we just hang out and watch horror movies.
Okay.
So in a weird way, there's a comfort that comes with horror movies.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's the comfort because of my friends. I just think of us just staying up all night watching these movies.
Yeah.
And then when the idea of started making movies started pop into my head, it just seemed like a no-brainer because I was like, this is going to be fun.
Yeah.
We get to kill each other. We get to rip each other apart. We get to make monsters and just have creepy stuff.
Yeah.
The video games must not have been as good because nowadays I'm thinking growing up we can do all that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah. I mean, I had Nintendo 64.
Yeah. So you got in you must have got in at the right time because it worked out.
Yeah. And I love all types of movies and I write other type of scripts too, but horror is just something I always find myself coming back to.
Yeah.
And I think it's just fun to make them because
100%.
you get to make these stories that don't really exist in real life.
100%.
Even if it's reality based.
100%.
You're still exploring parts of life that maybe we don't talk about on a daily basis or we don't explore or thankfully don't happen. And so it's the idea of building a world is just so enriching and satisfying. And in horror, you have to build a world.
100%. So when you go into your film process and stuff like that, do you have a vision for the angles? Do you have a vision for who you want to be a part of that story? Or is this something that you guys kind of think about as you're making the movie?
It's a little bit of both. I definitely have when I'm writing, sometimes I have a scene, I'm like, oh, I know exactly how that's going to be shot. Or this is one particular angle we got to get. But then sometimes too, I like the collaboration part of it. And I always say, if I didn't want to collaborate, I would just write books.
Correct.
Because it would just be me,
Yep.
And I have ideas, but I don't always have the best ideas. I don't always have good ideas.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have really shitty ideas, but then you surround yourself with a bunch of other people that, like our director of photography, his specialty is the camera.
Right,
is
just having
lighting.
that crew that knows
Exactly.
certain things. That way you don't have to think of all of it.
Yeah, so then I'll be like, well, this is what I'm thinking.
Right.
And then the experts go,
This is how we can
this
translate
is how
it.
we can do it.
Got it.
And actually, you know what? That's a cool idea, but we could do something even better.
Oh,
than that.
100%.
And so it's a little bit of both. And again, I love that collaboration. Because
Yes.
the goal is to make the best film. The goal isn't for me to make the best movie I can make. It's to make the best film that the group can make.
Correct.
Because I'm one, like on Black Mold, I'm one of 100 people that worked on this movie.
Yes.
And I want all of them to feel good about the end product.
Got it.
So if I'm in there just calling all the shots and saying, no, this is the way it has to be, I'm just being disrespectful and inconsiderate to all these people that are busting their asses.
Yeah.
And I want all of them to feel good. So the collaboration, that's something that keeps me coming back.
Okay.
That's a
Yeah.
big theme. That comes up a lot on the show. When we talk to people, and they always say like, oh, it's the team, because you can't do everything yourself.
For sure.
Especially like a lot of like young filmmakers or new filmmakers, or just in any endeavor, people will think like, oh, I can do my version, my vision of this shot. I can do like the lighting this way, or just think they're an expert in every field, but it's easier to outsource.
It is, and I'll be honest. When I started, I definitely had that mindset of like I could do it all, and then you realize you're drowning right away, and you're like, "Fuck, I can't do it all."
You need the
so
team.
you kind of have to have that like hard lesson learned, like get some failures under your belt, and like fall on your face, and then it goes, shit, maybe we got to change this up.
Do you ever have problems like getting started on something, or like how do you deal with that?
Yeah, the biggest problem, and every filmmaker is probably going to say this, time and money. Those are the hardest things.
Yeah.
And the reality of it, because you do have to get so many people involved, and not everyone can work for free. Films cost money.
Yeah, they do.
Even just to pay people decent rates, it costs a lot of money. So the hardest thing with filmmaking is always writing the script is one thing, assembling the team is another. Getting that money, raising that money, that's the hardest thing. And I've had plenty of projects where we tried to raise the money for it and we couldn't. We spent 2 years trying to raise this money, and then you go, I guess we're not making that movie. Okay, on to the next one. So, and it's also, I think a lot of creatives, you're your own worst enemy or your own worst critic. So sometimes just in writing, you think about it for so long, and then you just keep going like, I don't know, is it that good? Is it that good of idea? Should I really write this? So sometimes it does take a little bit to just finally get over that mental roadblock that we put on ourselves. And I always say the hardest word to write is the first word. Once you start typing, you get that itch, you get that bug, and you're going to come back to it day after day after day.
Yeah.
But it could take you months to put that first word on.
Yeah. Okay. You talked a little bit about the financial aspect of like raising money. If somebody's out there and they're watching this, they're like a young filmmaker and they want to like figure out how to source money. Is there any advice you can give to them?
Friends and family is how a lot of a lot of us start. And the cool thing is, you don't need the biggest budget to make something. And honestly, sometimes making something very small, grassroots, DIY, you can then take that to show other people. Look at what I'm capable of. I did this with no money. Now if I get a couple $100 or get $1,000, I can go further with it. Because film is such a visual medium. You can go in a meeting, you can have the best pitch, you can explain this perfectly, you can have a cool poster, but somebody goes, well, what does it look like? Can you do this? Are you capable? So just having something to show is so important. But friends and family, or selling whatever, your records, or whatever you collect. I donated plasma for a while to save that money to put into stuff,
Yeah, a lot goes into it.
A lot goes into it. If you want to do it, you'll find it. And there's like no clear cut, this is how you make that first one. Just perseverance. That's the biggest thing.
Nice.
Understand you're gonna hear no a lot. And filmmaking is nothing but problem solving. A problem is presented to you, and you have to find your way around that. And a lot of times, that problem is no.
Yeah.
And you go, how do we turn a no into a yes?
Okay. So your film Black Mold, they just showed a screening of this, and like, why should people make their way to watch this film? Like, figure out a way to watch this film with me.
Now you're gonna turn me into a sales I mean, all independent films are this way, but Black Mold was made by an incredible group of filmmakers from the Midwest. Almost all of us are based out of the Midwest in different states, but this is a passion project for us. And it was about 100 people all together worked on this film. We worked our asses off, and we worked really hard to try to make a film that is equally emotionally beautiful, but also haunting at the same time. And so Black Mold, it's a film that is centered around loss of a parent and mental health and depression. And so it's, even if you haven't lost a parent or you lost a close one, life's hard.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like, life's inherently hard for everybody, no matter where you are. And we all have our own struggles. And the goal I really wanted to do with this film is just kind of remind people, like, we're all in this together. Like, we all have our struggles, and no matter who we are, no matter where we come from, we have way more in common with each other than we think.
Oh, absolutely.
We're just human.
So when making a film like Black Mold, and you mentioned like the passion.
Yeah.
When it comes to like sequels and a world of sequels, everyone loves a sequel, right?
Right.
How do you go about making your next film? Are you big on the whole sequel, or you love like the one shot? Like, this is big for me to just tell this one story and then I'm going to move on to something else.
That's cool. I've made multiple films and no one's ever asked about sequels.
Yeah.
So that's cool that you asked it. I'm cool watching sequels.
Okay.
I really don't have any interest in making sequels. That's not to say that I wouldn't, but I really like the idea of just crafting what I feel is the strongest story possible and letting it exist as that. And I think as a filmmaker too, I like doing different things. I've never made the same film twice. I'm always trying to do something a little bit different, whether it's with the setting or the themes or the actors or whatever that would be. And I think in sequels, it's too easy to just kind of rehash,
dilute it,
and stay in that world.
Right.
Going back to that idea of world building, I love world building. So I don't want to just stay in one world the whole time. I like the idea of I'm in this world, and then we make another project, and now it's a completely different set of rules, and it's a different environment, and just it's refreshing.
It's refreshing.
So again,
It's Phoenix from the ashes.
yeah. And I won't say like maybe there would never be a sequel. We always joke about what would the sequel to Black Mold be, or what would. Not that I would ever do it, but it's just interesting. And even in like selling films, sometimes the distributor will retain sequel rights, and I'm like, good luck making a sequel to that. But I kind of want to see what it is, because it would be interesting to see someone else's take.
Absolutely. So when like making films and things of that nature, a lot of our audience are probably into films and into entertainment. Things of that types of, like, just media in general.
Sure, yeah.
So would you ever step outside of making films to do other projects?
And different mediums?
Like podcasts or things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually been toying with the idea of a couple books that I am interested in writing.
Oh, nice.
Being that I grew up loving comic books, especially sometimes I come up with these ideas for films that I'm
creative.
just like, fuck, that's too big. Like, we can't raise that money to make this movie right now.
100%.
But as a comic book, that could maybe work, because you're just working with a few artists. You don't have to raise millions of dollars to make a comic book. So I think about comic books from time to time. Podcasts are always really cool, and I just like storytelling. If I can tell a story, I'm not even really concerned about the format or the medium, just as long as it's a story that excites me and I get to be creative.
Yeah.
Last question for you. So, like, if you could go back in any era, like make a film about a different era, like what era and time would it be?
So make a period piece, basically? I love late 50s, early 60s, like doo-wop and Motown.
Yes.
And I've always actually kind of pictured setting a really gratuitous, over-the-top horror movie in 1958. Just because
it'd be cool.
I think it would be
really
fucking
cool.
Basically, if Pleasantville or mixed with the Evil Dead.
Oh my god.
You know, because
Oh my
part of it
God.
is I just want to have a kick-ass. Yeah, I just want to have a kick-ass soundtrack. With with all these beautiful doo-wop and Motown
Shots
songs.
and colors. And,
Yeah, and over the top, there's just like insane gore moments and shit. I just think it would be really, really cool.
Yeah.
And I would say probably like late 50s, early 60s.
Okay, so where can the people find you?
We have Black Gold Film on all the social medias. My personal is John Pata. I don't post a whole lot, but you know, I'm reaching. You know, if anyone ever wants to message or talk about anything, I'm always down for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, man.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for talking.
Yeah, no problem.
If you can find a way to see Black Mold Town Pass, check it out. You know? Thanks for watching.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, dude. Thank you.